You better be in the house when them street lights come on. Ain't that what your mama used to tell you? But I bet you when she told you to stay out the streets, she had no idea that the YouTube streets would take over the world. Uncle Juice, public figure Boogie, Baby Down So Raw, Detroit Gossip, and the most dangerous voice in Detroit, Dawgface TV.
Bitch, I talk more shit than Dawgface.
They running shit from coast to coast. Welcome to the Danger Zone.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go.
You just gotta see it to believe it.
Look at this. Somebody come look at this.
But it ain't nothing like hearing it straight from the dog's mouth, cause he tells it just like it is.
The word on the street.
Here's what's popping. Here's what's popping, people. My name is Dawgface Calderon. This is Real Life Unfiltered. Today is a special episode. I'm always saying that everything is a special episode. And I know Henny is looking at me now, ready to say, hey, you say everything is a special episode, because every time I flip the switch on this $2,000 microphone that I have right here, right? It's some special shit going on. Hey, how y'all doing? Everybody okay?
Hey, yo.
We all right?
Hey, dog.
So listen, man, we're going to go around. That girl, is it ladies first today or no? Don't start that shit.
You being real polite today in front of Mr. Perkins, I see.
Yeah, because
yeah.
I want to see the real one. I want to see the real Dawgface. I'm good with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm really good with you being yourself. You know
your Western music and your dogs barking, and I'm your nemesis. And where's all of that? You want to be all nice tonight? I'm calling you out.
See, the one thing I know about black women is that no matter what you do, you can never satisfy. They're gonna always. That girl, my arch nemesis.
I'm not saying that. I'm not taking part in that.
Right. The ache to my lower back. The ache to my lower back. My arch nemesis. Everybody's favorite it girl. That girl, Henny's in the building. What's up, Henny?
Hey, everybody. Hey, dog. That's right. I'm in the building. What's popping, everybody? Make sure y'all are leaning on the likes wherever you are. And yes, I'm still cute.
And in the lower left-hand corner, DJ Bless One.
Man, shout out to everybody. Much respect to Mr. Perkins. I seen some of your clips talking to Dawgface and Henny when I was researching. Shout out to Henny as usual, the beautiful Henny, and already King face in the building, man.
Did you just
Don't be a hater. Do not be a hater.
See, he down there in Miami with all that good ganja, that bumble clock. You know what I'm saying? He has them extra antennas going up with the, you know how they be with the catching the waves. And in this corner, the people champ is in the building. Todd Perkins from the Perkins Law Group. If you are from, so I'm going to say this: if you're from Michigan, right, particularly the Detroit areas, right, when you hear the name Todd Perkins, if you're on the other side of that equation in the courtroom, generally speaking, you fucking get nervous, right? You get nervous, generally speaking. You know there's going to be a fucking problem. Mr. Perkins, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm excellent, man. I'm great. I'm glad you had me out. You let an old man do his thing with these y'all young folks tonight.
Hey, listen. So listen. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here. I know you're a busy man, so we're going to jump right into it. So we're going to start off with the AllStarJr situation. Okay. AllStarJr, he got into a situation at a restaurant, not a nightclub. It's a restaurant called Confessions. It's situated in Houston, Texas. So according to the criminal complaint that charged him on the federal level, he's locked up for two different things right now. One, he's a felon possessing of a firearm, and then there is some additional things that talks about carrying a firearm across state lines, right? Because the firearm was manufactured or registered first in Georgia, and then it found its way to Houston, where the incident took place at. AllStarJr is locked up for two different reasons: one state, one fed. The fed is being a felon in possession of a firearm, and then he's been charged with one count of aggravated assault with a weapon in a situation where 3 people were shot, but he's only been charged with one aggravated assault. So Mr. Perkins is here to provide some clarity, because he is both Mr. Perkins, are you more well known for the work you've done on the federal or state level?
Well, I'd like to think both. But if you're practicing law where I have been, I've had substantially more state cases than federal cases. But federal cases really is one federal court system that operates throughout the country, which allows lawyers like myself to go into federal courts in different states, which I've done. I've also done state court trials in other states, because after you practice long enough, you typically 5 years. This is going to be my 30th year. After you've practiced long enough, you can go and ask for permission to practice in other states, and there's certain rules that you have to abide by. But a lot of times people will call you because some people just don't trust the lawyers in that particular community. So you find yourself, if you have the bandwidth and if you have the reputation, and people will speak good things about you. But always remember, you're only as good as your last fight. But keep on fighting like that. Never give up. But I would say answer that question. I'd say I've had more state cases than federal cases, but many, well over 100 federal cases, probably a couple hundred, less than 1,000, but state cases well over thousands.
Got you. Mr. Perkins, you've had the opportunity to review some of the motions that are involved, and they're not many because this case hasn't progressed. We're not at an end game yet. You've had the opportunity to go over and review some of the motions that have been filed in the AllStarJr case, at least on the federal level.
Right.
I'm going to let you take over and just, because I don't need to prefix what I'm about to ask you because you already know what it is. I want you to tell me, just from your professional opinion, how did we get to where we are now with AllStarJr having both been charged on the federal level with being a felon in possession of a firearm, and on the state level, he's been charged with aggravated assault with a weapon, but he's only been charged for one, when there were three people shot in the one incident. Give us a breakdown, and I'm going to shut the hell up and let you just talk.
Okay. So, in order to keep this right, I kind of got to write some things down so that I really give it to the audience in a way that everybody can understand it. And, because you get into this legalese sometimes and you lose people. You lose they're like, he's talking John. But so let's break it down. On the federal side, I haven't done a lot of research on the state side because I think one of the things that we talked about is two real motions on the federal side that have been filed. There's a motion, I believe, that's pending by the defense attorney to have the court reconsider his bond as far as the detention order. So what happened was, and right there, you've got the unopposed motion. We'll get to that one right there. That's really what I think is bothering a lot of people right there, is that motion right here. And we'll get to that one. But the first one is he got arrested in Michigan. And so what happens is, because he got arrested in a different jurisdiction than the Texas jurisdiction that he's brought forth on, he had what's called a Rule 5 hearing. A Rule 5 hearing is in front of a judge in Detroit, Judge Altman, Magistrate Judge Altman. She presided over that hearing, in which there's a couple of different things that only happen at the hearing. One, is this the person who is wanted out of Houston? Typically, he's going to waive an identity aspect of that hearing. He's going to waive that. And then it becomes an issue of whether or not he needs a probable cause hearing, or whether he's going to have a detention hearing. He had a detention hearing in this case. And so when he had a detention hearing, they said that there's no set of circumstances in which, one, they can guarantee his return to court, and two, that he's no longer a danger to the community. The problem for AllStarJr, he would not have a federal case if he didn't have a prior felony conviction. Because so he's either had a felony conviction either for what's considered in the state of Michigan, these are serious felonies, which are drugs or assault. And those, it's called a specified felony. Those can ultimately be expunged, meaning they can be removed off your record after a certain period of time if you only have 3. But if you also have a capital case, meaning you face the potentiality of life on a capital case in Michigan, you can't expunge that. So you have that case. If you have a capital case, you cannot, in the state of Michigan, you cannot possess that firearm. So getting back to what we were talking about as far as this firearm, I know you mentioned something about it being transported from Georgia to Texas. Yeah. The real issue is that he's a felon in possession of firearm, and that firearm was made outside of the state of Texas, and therefore it affects what they call interstate commerce. And that's the way that they loop him in to a federal charge. But if he didn't have a prior felony record, he wouldn't have this particular federal case. And so it would just be the state case he's dealing with. So then once he got detained in Detroit, he then got transported. That happened in April. Then a lot of people wouldn't know about this, but for you, you've put a lot of people on point and a lot of people up to speed on what's happening to this young man. Very set of unfortunate circumstances. So he gets transported down there, and his lawyer, what I looked at, I believe has filed a motion for his bond to be reconsidered by the judge down there. So that has not been resolved at this point. Mm-hmm. Then we have this thing right here. We have the United States, that's what you just put up. You have, which is the United States unopposed motion for protective order for discovery. So what they're saying is, let's read into the title. United States unopposed motion, meaning that clearly, in order for me, if I were to write an unopposed motion, that would mean that I had to have talked to the other side. Therefore, the United States lawyer, the U.S. attorney, whoever is presiding over this case, talked to the defense attorney, and he's not going to oppose the United States request for a protective order for discovery. And so what happens, that's not uncommon to happen. I have a lot of cases in which there's a protective order. There's a basis for having a protective order in some cases because you might have minors involved in a case. You might have what they call personal identifying information in a case like social security number, dates of birth, things that people should be able to keep private and not disclose to the general public. And, this is maybe it seems to be a common practice in this area of Texas. It's not necessarily filed in our district. Oftentimes the prosecutor will call us up and they'll say, will you stipulate, meaning will you agree to an order? So we don't even have to file a motion sometimes. And defense attorneys will accept this kind of order being entered, then they'll accept it because we want the discovery. We want to be able to start helping our client. We want the police reports. We want the body worn cameras. We want the video cameras. So we want all that information. So we'll agree to it. But also the effect of this is that it prevents any dissemination, any spreading out of this information to the general public. And really, it puts it at the feet of the lawyer. The lawyer can get in trouble if this information gets out because he's agreed. He or she, I don't know, I believe it's Helms is representing him. He's agreed that he's going to abide by these rules. And so it also puts some constraints on the defendant, even though he's in custody. He can't really talk about his case to anybody. And if he does, there could be a sanction against him. Well, in that situation, that's kind of hard to control because he believes, hey, my sanction is y'all got to be locked up. You know what I'm saying? And so oftentimes you have to counsel your client not to talk about this because we don't want to feel the wrath of the judge about violating an order. But, that's up to the client at that point. But as you look at it, they are keeping this information from being broadcast through media, the public domain, and they hold, and who they'll seriously hold accountable is the defense attorney because but here's the problem that I have with that. This is a very notable case. Mm-hmm. This case has been in the news. It's out here in the general public and people know about this case, whether you're in Michigan, whether you're in Texas, whether you're around the country because he's a notable artist, right? But if the prosecutor gets on the news and talks about this case, then they've opened the door to letting the defendant do so because what's good for, I truly believe, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Because if they go out and talk about specific things about the case, then they can be considered and deemed to have violated this order. You know, the protection should go both ways. They shouldn't be able to go out and talk about this if they're telling the other side that they can't either. So
Gotcha.
it's just, I don't like them, you know, because a lot of this information, people can make up stories about the defense attorney letting this information out. You know, what if I need some of this information in order to talk to some witnesses and tell the witnesses something about the end of this, what's going on in this case, and then they interpret that to mean that I violated this order. That's crazy. That's crazy.
So I want, if I can, I'd like to read over this unopposed motion for protective order of discovery. It says the United States of America moves for a protective order under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 16D-1. The discovery contains information, agency operation plans, and tactics that would be needed to read, or that would need to be redacted in the absence of a protective order. Brief overview of facts. On April 8, 2026, a robbery and shooting occurred at Confessions Restaurant located in Houston, Texas, in the Southern District of Texas. The restaurant was open to the public at the time of the shooting, and restaurant patrons who were not involved with any of the individuals involved in the incident were made witnesses to the events leading up to the shooting and thereafter. The defendant has been indicted for felon in possession of a firearm. The case is still under investigation. Discovery. The discovery is of a sensitive nature. Much of the evidence contains numerous witnesses and their personal information, along with individuals who are still under investigation. This is the part I want to key in. The discovery is of sensitive nature. Most of the evidence concerns numerous witnesses and their personal information. We got that. Along with individuals who are still under investigation for their participation in the incident. As such, the United States moves for a protective order containing the following provisions. So listen, Mr. Perkins, had it not been, my question to you is this, straightforward. I ain't gonna hold you up, right? Okay. The other people who were involved with this shooting and robbery, they really win from a motion like this because they really get to piggyback the other witnesses who had nothing to do with it. So now we don't get the chance to see what statements they made right now. Right. We don't get the chance to see information about them right now. Absolutely. And they're really piggybacking off of the witnesses who were just patrons of the restaurant who had nothing to do with this shit.
Oh yeah, no, they cast a broad net so they can rein it all the way in, and they don't have to show anything. They don't have to show their hand. You know, and the thing is that, exactly what I said, and I wasn't reading it for like a script, but yeah, that's what they said. It is numerous witnesses and their personal information. So, that's what the discovery entails. Now, if you really want to break it on down, then you could say, okay, let's redact that portion of the discovery and redact that portion of the discovery so that's not disseminated to the general public, but let the rest of it be disseminated to the general public. But then what a judge is going to probably say is, the potential exists that this lawyer, an effective lawyer would try to do this. He's going to try this case through the media streams. And they're not going to allow that, to the extent that they can control it. Because once the prosecutor tries to do that, if they did, then I think it would open the door for the other side to do so too.
Gotcha. Henny, you got questions?
At this time, the only thing that I was concerned with was the whole thing about ongoing investigation.
Right. Oh, it's still, so look.
Is that for this case or is that for something?
I think there's other cases too. You know what I'm saying? Clearly, my understanding is that this young man, Mr. Ford, AllStarJr, has been charged in the state case with aggravated assault, right? On one person, What
Yeah.
I
Right.
believe is that person, because if you look at the complaint bears out more facts or allegations. I like to say allegations because of the fact that the allegations is no facts until the jury speaks. The jury determines what the facts are. So that's kind of just my way of talking. But in the complaint, it shows that there was he picked up the gun off the ground. It doesn't say that it was his, but he picked up the gun off the ground, started shooting. Then he comes back to that individual who's laying on the ground and shoots him a couple more times. What I suspect, because I haven't had a chance to look at the discovery from the state case and see, here's an end round. You know how you want to get around something? Here's an end round. What if you have a different lawyer on your state case and not have a protective order on that case and show the whole world from the state case what's going on? Because I'm sure the discovery in the state case is going to be very similar to the discovery in the federal case. Even though they're different charges, it's the same circumstances and it's the same investigative agencies that are involved for both different prosecutions.
Right.
So, go ahead.
I have one more question. I'm sorry. I have one more question. How is it that he's the only person that is being charged? Is that what you mean by ongoing investigation?
Right.
Because that's been a big debate about how it started out with him being the victim.
Right.
But now he ends up being prosecuted.
Right. So again, and I apologize, Henny, I didn't really answer your first question because I went off on this tangent, and it's so much, to talk about. But you're right. I didn't answer the first question. The ongoing nature of the investigation, it throws out there that those people who were involved with the robbery, because it clearly wasn't AllStarJr that committed the robbery.
Right.
It was the other people. So what I suspect is those witnesses are going to be super compliant. They better go get themselves some lawyers so they can argue to get an immunity agreement or to get some kind of closure as it relates to the prosecution of whatever they're going to do to them if they get prosecuted, so that they can cooperate and testify in this case for the government. That's what's probably going to happen if they're smart. That's what they're going to do. They started it, but most people, what I'm saying, most people are not going to stand on what they do. They're not going to, they're going to do what's best for them. And in this situation, they're going to probably, if the government says, we need you as a witness, we'll give you some value. And that doesn't mean that they won't come back and prosecute them after all this is over with. Or that doesn't mean that they don't already have a deal in place. Remember, this thing took place in April.
Right.
So I believe the wheels are turning. I couldn't see if I was a prosecutor, I couldn't see letting these guys off the hook, even if I'm going to charge AllStarJr for whatever. I can't see giving them a cookie when they tried to rob the bank. You know what I'm saying? I just couldn't see myself giving them that. I don't think that's justice. I don't think that's right. But if that's the case, then those guys would be smart to get lawyers. They probably already have them in order to negotiate their way out of it. Because you can't get around, unless you're going to create a story that this has something to do other than a robbery or that AllStarJr. Because I don't know if there's sound associated with these cameras, because we don't know, because they're not releasing it other than what was initially released through through the media before this protective order. Because the protective order, I don't think it's actually been signed yet. No, it hasn't actually been signed yet. So we're not subject to this. But I guarantee you, the prosecutor hasn't turned over the discovery until that thing gets signed.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
Did I answer it though, Henny?
Yes, you make perfect sense. Thank you.
All right.
And bless one, feel free to chime in anytime. So listen, I'm going to play devil's advocate. How in the fuck? The criminal complaint says, the federal criminal complaint says that while being robbed and assaulted,
that was my next question. We hear
a gun appeared. It doesn't say where it came from.
All right.
It says that Mr. Ford picked the gun up off the ground and used it to shoot the people who were robbing and assaulting him.
Right.
So I'm going to ask this question again. Under what if it were not for the, and I'm just trying to, I'm a mathematician, so I always think in chronological terms. If it were not for an assault committed by them to him, if it were not for the assault and the robbery, you don't have no gun. You don't even have an incident at all, period, had it not been for the assault and robbery that was initiated by members of NBA YoungBoys camp who were associated with Jay Prince Jr., who mob ties, rap a lot. If it were not for the assault and robbery, you ain't got no motherfucking gun case. You ain't got nothing involving no shooting and none of this shit. So what the fuck is the prosecution doing on the federal? I was under the impression that when the Fed pick up a case, they pick up the case and everything that has to do with the case, because the gun was used according to the state. The feds had the opportunity to examine the case in its totality. So could the feds have picked up the entire situation, or were they restricted to just pick up the gun portion of it?
I can go?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first, the thing about NBA YoungBoy, Jay Prince, those are allegations. As a lawyer, I'm gonna leave them where they at. But here's where, and this is a hypothesis session that you and I have, or all of us are having, because we don't have the discovery. And we're trying to get into the minds of how they get to the point where this guy otherwise could have lost his life if he didn't find the benefit of being on the ground, falling to the ground, seeing a gun that was on the ground and getting it and defending himself. Okay. So I think it's for the ambit of time. So the time that he was defending himself and thwarting off that attack with those other individuals, boom, he's not charged for that. But when he came back and then this guy is motionless on the floor, I'm just saying their opinion. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't. Because whether he's motionless or not, I don't know whether or not he's still not a threat to me, because these guys almost tried to take my life. Mm-hmm. So within a couple of seconds, but I still believe that they're taking that section of time and dissecting this up almost like we're in a lab. That's not how real life works. I think that they really have an uphill battle in proving that he couldn't, that there wasn't duress, there wasn't self-defense, and all of those other things, even with the guy motionless on the ground, right? So that's what I believe is now he becomes a felon in possession when he continues to possess that weapon when there's no longer a threat or a necessity to do so. That's what I believe. Because look, after he shot him a couple more times, what did he do? He wiped off the gun, put it over by the hostess stand, and got on. Right. Another thing is, here's another problem that AllStarJr may have, is that he fled, because they'll say that fleeing is a consciousness of guilt. Because if you didn't have nothing to be worried about, then you would have stayed at the scene. That's what the prosecutor's going to say. But as a defense attorney, you must argue he was fearful. The fear never left his heart. The fear is still in his heart today, because of the fact that what happened. This doesn't happen to anybody just every day. And it appears this was a calculated event by those individuals.
I want to ask. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to ask, how in a court of law do you determine that the threat has been it's over? Because one of the things that Dawg and I talked about was, there's different components that come into play here with him, right? There's the incident he already had happen prior to this case that could play with him psychologically. There's also, the subject is on the ground, but people are still running and moving. So how do you, in a court of law, say, well, at this point, this is when you were no longer in harm's way, versus him being in the situation and assessing when that threat is over?
Okay. May I, Ms. Henny?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just writing down just so I don't lose my way, so I can answer your question, because it really is a big issue which you're raising. So I'm looking at the last page of the complaint, page 9 of the complaint, and it says conclusion. The complaint is what drew this man into the crosshairs of criminal prosecution. This is the thing that was filed on April 17th of 2026, even before he got arrested in Detroit and brought into duty court, and then ultimately shipped down there and had his first hearings in Houston in May, right? So the last thing, number 22, says, based upon the information delineated above, that's all the things that Dawg and you guys have read about the complaint, right? That gives a lot of more factual information. It tells who the special agent from the FBI is and all those things. And he signed a complaint. It says, I believe this is an affidavit by the special agent, Joseph Gregory, a guy in the FBI down in Houston. He works for I'm assuming he works for the Violent Crimes Task Force. He says, I believe that probable cause exists for the issuance of a criminal complaint charging Ford with felon in possession of a firearm in violation of 18 USC 922G and 924A8. So probable cause, that's the key. Probable cause is one of the lowest standards of proof in our criminal justice system. I think the only thing lower might be something called reasonable suspicion, but probable cause means that it's probable. So we say that it's probable that this person committed this offense, and it's probable that this offense was actually committed, right? That's a low standard of proof. It's the same thing. It's almost like the indictment. The indictment is where, I don't know, anywhere from 17 to 21 or 20 some jurors listen to evidence that's only put on by the prosecution, and that happens after the criminal complaint. Oftentimes in a situation, a person can get indicted and doesn't know about it until they get arrested. But in a criminal complaint, they typically are doing this in the interest of expediency. It's much quicker to do a complaint. He can draft up this complaint, put it in front of a magistrate, they'll sign it, a magistrate judge, and they'll sign it, and then off and running, the court process starts. Whereas if you're going to indict someone, you got to convene a grand jury, put the information out there. It doesn't take that much longer, but it could take a couple of weeks versus a day. And that's what happened in this situation. Probable cause. So probable cause, and based upon all the things that they say, all they have to do is say it. All they have to do is say it and say that this is what happened. Because what they're doing is, there's in a complaint, there's essentially no testimony from the witnesses. They allow agents to proceed with something called by proffer, meaning that they're offering the information of what they anticipate witnesses would stand. And people say, man, where's my right to confrontation? Why can't I confront these witnesses and bring tasks to their testimony to see whether or not that they're going to fall in line with that? People call that, you know what they call that? They call it a question of fact. And what it means is that probable cause, there may be questions of fact, meaning that whether it's true or not, whether they're going to actually be able to prove it, those are separate issues down the road when you get to trial, or if you have motions to file, motions to dismiss the case. Those are separate things. But once they establish probable cause and the judge believes the probable cause has been established, then you're headed to trial. And then you off into the pretrial motions and trying to get things dismissed, trying to, whittle down the case to its smallest point so that you can, manipulate or move the evidence the way that most benefits one side. The government's going to try to tell the story about how bad this guy is and why he should have never been in possession of a weapon. The defense is going to talk about how the exigent or the urgency of the moment caused him to act like this. But yet, those are issues which are called questions of fact. And who decides a question of fact? A jury. And so in the meantime, unfortunately, no matter how much money AllStarJr has, if a judge in federal court says you're going to be detained, you're detained. Whereas on the state side, they can give you an incredible bond. They can tell you, I want $500,000, I come $1 million. Some people got it. Right. And that's what, like when the Diddy situation, he can post any bond somebody could set, right? Right. But in federal court, it's not about your money. It's not about your money. It's whether that judge says you're going to go home or not. So,
can I ask you a legal question with your expertise, Mr. Perkins?
Yeah.
As far as the argument, like a defense attorneys out here. So I'm not trying to show proof of All Star's innocent, just more of a legal argument as far as self-defense. So was AllStarJr outnumbered? Was he being physically assaulted? Did he reasonably fear serious body injury or death? Did multiple people participate in the confrontation? And I also want to ask you a thing, because he doesn't even really need all that. And let me know if I'm way off. Does he just need a reasonable situation under the circumstances?
You're right on point. So, and to a certain extent, the government, when I say the government, I mean, the police, the courts, well, not the court necessarily, but the other side, right? Because we decided the people, even though they claim to be representing the people, I consider myself representing the people. So you're right. But the court has basically acknowledged that there was self-defense, that he did have a right to defend himself, and that the circumstances presented him caused him to react in a certain way, and he's not going to be charged for that. You know why you know that? Look at the state charge. He's only charged with one assault. The other two individuals who got shot, and basically, let's say, for instance, if I was shooting in a restaurant, do you know potentially everybody who was even close or near those shots, I could be charged with a potential assault? So it could number in the 50s and 10s and 20s of people, whoever were in the restaurant, that I put them in fear for their safety. He only got charged with one. So you can take from that and extrapolate from that the government is saying, this is the only one that we're coming for. And it's really a smart tactic by the government to acknowledge they're trying to say, hey, we're being reasonable. What he did was not reasonable. We were willing to let go of the fact that he picked up a gun and he was a felon and he should not have, because we recognized his life was in danger. But those other people had run off. This guy's laying motionless on the ground, and he comes back over and shoots him a couple of times. We're being reasonable this time, Mr. Perkins. You and your client are not. Well, I don't agree with that, but I'm sure that's the position that they're going to take. So absolutely. I think that they have acknowledged that there is self-defense, and he was justified in some of the actions that he took, just based upon the fact there's only one person charged, or there's only one count in which he's charged with having hurt someone.
Good breakdown. Thank you. You answered what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Henny?
I have nothing at the moment.
Do you rest your case, motherfucker?
No, because we ain't through the damn paperwork, nickel.
Okay. Anthony, that's why we don't get along.
Oh, please. You know you miss me when I'm not here.
Hey, listen, so one of the comments said that, hey, AllStarJr made a statement. They said by his admission, he admitted that AllStarJr didn't make any initial statements. In the criminal complaint, Gangster Astrology 313, they said they used information gleaned from his social media and from the music, wherein he admitted that they dropped their gun and they picked it up and he shot him. But he has not made any statements outside of the music videos and social media posts. He has not said. They want him to say, Mr. Perkins, here's the magic question. So it talks about there's an ongoing criminal investigation associated with this thing. And my thing is, I'm being charged with a felon in possession of a firearm, right? And I'm also being charged on the federal level. On the state level, I'm being charged with aggravated assault on one person, right? I get where you're coming from. Listen, it was a calculated move by the state to say, hey, listen, if you had not come back and shot the person who was on the ground who appeared to be motionless, you wouldn't have been charged at all, because all this plays out. We wouldn't be able to justify it. We wouldn't be able to prosecute it because it all stemmed from you being attacked and robbed. But this particular situation right here, this component, we're gonna carve this section out and charge it with this, because in this situation, it appears that this person was motionless. I'm gonna ask you a question. Do we need testimony or statements from the person who was laying on the ground, who they say AllStarJr came back and shot again?
Well, we don't necessarily need that. We need the testimony to say that. I think you need a live witness to discuss what happened leading up to it, because I'm not going to let them try my case in a vacuum, meaning that we're not going to sanitize it and reduce it down to just that, because that would take away how I felt before I entered into that transaction with the guy laying on the ground. And we're not talking about a 15-minute breather. We're talking about seconds. We're talking about minor minutes that we're talking about. So I'm not going to let them do that. And at the end of the day, you do need that person because you want that person to testify. Now, here's one thing that you do have to deal with is the fact that that person right now is not has a function of their legs. Is he going to be a paraplegic for the rest of their life? That is also going to be, it'll have an impact. When that jury sees a person in that wheelchair, it does have an impact. Now, he is responsible for the things that happen to him. So now then we got to go down and get into our experts. We get into our experts and talk about, I want to know where those shots were, because we can see it on video, where those shots took place and where they took effect. Because let's say, for instance, if you shot him in the leg, that's unlikely to have rendered him an inability to use those legs. So if those last two shots were not ones that injured him in his leg, we're talking about a different set of circumstances where his permanent, if it's a permanent injury, I hope not, but if it's a permanent injury and it happened during the course of those other people fleeing, because, he obviously got shot in that process, then if it happened on that situation, then that injury that he had right there should not also be counted against him in this charge of assault. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. We're going to get down to the point of where the medical doctors get involved and make a determination as to what those second set of shots that it seems like they're charging him with. So now we're breaking it down into a little further into this particular case, because this case got levels to it all over the place.
Yeah, Meek Mills. That was bars. Meek Mills. There's levels to this shit. Yeah, bars. You're a rapper now.
Right. So, Mr. Perkins.
Hey, I'm trying to rap so that my client don't get a rap.
Right.
I know that's right.
Bars.
So, Mr. Perkins, let me ask you this. Now, in the state, what is that? What did you call it? That's not a criminal complaint. That's
it's a criminal complaint.
It is. So in the state,
but I don't know if Houston operates by indictment. That sometimes they do, but criminal complaints and indictments, they run fluid between state and federal courts.
Gotcha. So now the state has one set of events that happened, and the feds have one set of events that happens. Mm-mm. It doesn't in the federal, they talk about the robbery, but in the state level, they say alleged robbery. But the feds have everything down to his necklace being taken, the watch being taken, and who took it. But the state is not acknowledging that. Why is that? I would think that it would match.
No, we're still talking about the same set of circumstances. Yeah, it sounds like they're talking about two different events, doesn't it?
Right.
And see, what they're doing is they're dressing it up for their own purposes.
Okay.
You understand? So the feds have one thing to prove, which is if he's charged with felon in possession, that's all they need to prove, that he's a felon in possession and he didn't have any justification for being in possession of that weapon, right?
Right.
But any defense attorney's not going to let them off the hook and only try that case with just those set of circumstances of whether or not that. They're going to bring in all the stuff that happened before. You got to. Because you don't get to as Dog said it, you don't get to the point where he even has the gun in his hand if somebody wasn't trying to rob his ass.
Right.
So that, and then hold on, let's go back in deeper. Then let's go into what Dog said. Even though I said, hey, we're going to wait for the circumstances to play itself out, but as a defense attorney and representing this guy, I'm going to go all the way deep into this NBA young boy and all this other stuff and bring all of that shit in there. Because, I'm going to bring a deluge of shit on this case. So by the time they look up, everybody got shit on them. And if you're in a situation like that, that's the best opportunity for a jury to say, I can't make no decision on this. This person, they haven't proven their case. And I'm kind of pissed off that they would bring this guy into court after these sons of bitches really tried to do harm to him. If nothing else, he deserved a right to be able to eat and have dinner with his significant other and not necessarily significant other, but his date, and not be attacked and robbed. Everybody deserves that.
Absolutely.
So So can I ask you one more question, Mr. Perkins?
Sure.
First,
Y'all call me Mr. Perkins. That just make me feel old. Just say TP.
I'm military, man.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead.
What you want me to call you though? If just the vibe or
TP.
Okay, TP. Yeah, that's kind of smooth. All right, TP. Let me just ask the questions. What I'm alluding to before I say anything is Mr. AllStarJr being charged with any assault on NBA Ben 10. I want to know that right quick. No,
Yes,
I don't know who's the person that got. Who's the person
Ben
that's
10. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's what that. I think that's we think because I haven't read that complaint, but I would assume if he's got one count, is that guy.
So I have to then allude to what I'm about to say because one thing that's really kind of, even if you want to charge AllStarJr, there seems to be some things you can charge him on. A charge is a charge, don't mean a guilt, but why all the participants involved haven't been identified publicly? They'll say their character names but they're not saying the government names like an AllStarJr. So that just alludes me to believe somebody in that camp, even I'm not afraid to say it, even maybe Mob Ties camp, somebody has participated with the cooperation. That's the only thing I
absolutely believe there's people who have talked to, whether they want to say it or not, there's people who talked on this case and, to save themselves, to protect themselves or protect others. It's clear. I mean, at the end of the day, these people, if you think about it, but for this individual, but for them charging AllStarJr, those other people are looking at straight robbery, assault charges, and likely convictions.
So will the state actually pick up a new case after this, after everything's done with All-Star, whether guilty or not? Will they then pick up?
I tell you this, I was telling Dawgface the other day, he was asking me about, does the prosecutor, should we take away some of the power of the prosecutor? That's the most powerful person in the courtroom process, period.
Right.
Hands down. They can sit here and they can say, we're not going to move forward on these charges. Case goes away. They can say you can actually get a jury verdict to convict your client. And if the prosecutor changes their mind for, obviously for some reason that they trust and believe, they can move to set aside the verdict. I mean, they file a motion in front of the judge to tell him to let the guy out on bond. Guess what? He gets out on bond. I mean, that's power. I mean, judges, all they're doing is calling balls and strikes and officiating, essentially. I'm not minimizing their role in this process, but if you're talking about the role of power, it doesn't even come close to the prosecution because they could take the power away from the judge by dismissing the case.
Does this set a precedent? Like if somebody like me or Dawgface or Henny, we're in that club or the vicinity of that restaurant and somebody is trying to rob me, for whoever I'm associated with, because I know problem can come my way. So now I have to be apprehensive to defend myself now?
No. No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it does make people think, hey, society is not fair, it's not fair. And they're definitely treating him differently because they're saying he's different. They're saying that AllStarJr is being treated differently because he has a felony record. And he has a felony record, and therefore, because if he didn't have a felony record, they couldn't charge him with felon in possession, right? So they're clearly treating him differently. I've never necessarily agreed with that charge, and in fact, there's some judges who are moving to say that charge could be unconstitutional. It doesn't allow a person to enjoy their Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms. So we'll wait to see on that, but right now it's an active charge and it's deemed constitutional for the purposes of anything going on in the federal system. But as far as being fearful of, something, your instinct of survival, your instinct to live is going to take precedent. And at some point in time, you're not going to worry about you'll worry about that later. Just like I think AllStarJr, he's worried about it now or concerned about it now. But at the time, he was not worried about it. He was worried about saving his life and protecting those around him from a clear and obvious attack. So,
can't the defense use his prior? He's been shot before, so PTSD.
Absolutely. So then you're gonna go. Let's go again. We're gonna go get another expert. We're gonna go get a psychologist. I'm gonna have a psychologist interview him. I'm gonna talk about the PTSD that is untreated and unknown until the process took place. I mean, those are possibilities. I'm not creating this. Those things are real. Those things are truly part of his background. So his reaction to what happened to him, even though reasonable in some respects, it might even be more reasonable based upon the individual circumstances from his prior experiences in life. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And one final question, you actually got me to be talkative. In appellate's court, forget about this sentence because I already know the justice system, it ain't transparent.
Well, let's not convict him yet. Let's believe that.
Okay, yeah, let me not. You know what? Let me disregard that. I believe words are a spell, so I'm not going to interject what I was about to say.
You were talking about an appeal going through the
appellate system. But that's assuming he's, because you said something correctly. That's assuming he will be guilty. I don't want to put that. I believe in spiritual, so.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Perkins, would this be the perfect case for stand your ground or self-defense, or which one? Like, are they the same?
Well, I think it's more along the lines of self-defense. Because it happens so fast. It's not really even something he's standing his ground, but I guess he is standing his ground. But his reaction was one to defend himself, and that fits like on what they say in the law on all 4 points. Like they say on all fours, like all 4 corners of this case, it fits in that box, and that's what it really is. So, some could argue it's an element of duress. You know what I'm saying? That, duress is also a defense, meaning, the extreme circumstances in which somebody's faced with having to react to a set of circumstances. So, it is, I think, more along the lines from a factual perspective for allegations, as I say, a self-defense issue.
Gotcha. Okay. And can you just explain like what the difference between stand your ground and self-defense is?
Well, stand your ground is, you don't have to necessarily go anywhere. You don't have to flee based upon somebody else's actions. And, I don't think he even had an opportunity to flee in this situation. It happened so quickly. And for him to flee and leave that young lady and leave, but he also, you can argue that he also has an obligation to protect other people in the vicinity,
Correct.
Because who's to say, I mean, it seems like it was a poignant attack on him, right? But who's to say that these scoundrels were going to do that to anyone else in there? So to a certain extent, you got self-defense and defense of others.
That's true.
But again, he didn't have to flee that area, but I don't even think he really even had an opportunity based upon how this unfolded.
And with them being the initiators and aggressors of this, does that hold weight in court?
No, that's gonna be the case itself as it relates to defending this guy. He didn't, Dawg set it off at the beginning. He didn't start this. It'd be different. It'd be different if he was the initial aggressor and then he wanted to pull back and then they came towards him. And, at least you had that back and forth. The prosecution might have a better case. But as it stands right now, I mean, this is it's unfortunate that he finds himself in detention right now. At the very least, if you're going to charge him, I think he should at least have a bond. But it's what he is, and he had and in Detroit he had a good lawyer here, so he has as good a chance as any to get out on bond. But considering the nature of the case, I understand how that happened. Whether I agree with it or not, I don't. I'm a defense attorney. I believe most people should be on bond to help in their defense.
Got you. So listen, do I have you for just a bit more? Because I'd like to.
Absolutely. Something. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to move out of my conference room into my other office because I got to plug up.
Okay,
but give me about 15 seconds. I'm plugging up.
I got you. Attorney Todd Perkins is in the building, man. Hey, Henny, you got good questions, Henny. I'm surprised.
You're surprised. You know what? I'm not going to do this. You are not going to make me look bad in front of TP.
Well, I'm just saying he even here. I'm talking behind his back. I'm talking about you behind his back. I'm not even talking. I'm just saying you surprised me. No,
well, I'm intelligent sometimes. Ba-doom, boom, psh. Hey, Bless, you had someone in your chat. I guess they're gone now by the name of Mizelle. I'm gonna shout you out real quick. Hey, Mizelle, it is me. You were right. That is my name, but don't be putting that on social media, sir. Okay?
Yeah, they put a government, and I'm like, I ain't want even want. I said, I know Henny, but I don't know who's that.
Right.
Telling my government. That's my Facebook
You want me to get rid of them? Because that was kind of, I ain't gonna lie to you, that was suspect.
Nah, he's cool people.
Okay,
he's good people. He's good people. Yeah. So I guess he's gone by now, but that's why I had changed my name real quick. Well, whatever. I don't care. Whatever.
I ain't want to say nothing. You seen I responded. It threw me off with the government. I don't really do the government thing on it. Yeah. That's kind of, but if that's your people, it's all cool.
Yeah, no, he's good people. He doesn't mean any harm. Oh, trust me, if it was a troll, this would have went a whole nother way. I'd have been like, Mr. Perkins, can you give us 5 real quick and don't watch this part?
I was like, what Henny did?
I'd be watching. Even if you gave me 5, I'm gonna still watch.
He's like, I'm gonna see what's going on. Okay, so dog, I think are you frozen?
I'm ready.
No, he's good.
I'm good. Over here.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I am froze. Some shit. It's some shit. Every time I be doing this shit, I be freezing up, man. So listen,
it's StreamYard.
Yeah. So watch this, right? So I want to play a video, right? And we're gonna go around and around. We're gonna end with Mr. Perkins, right? We're gonna try something new. I want to play this video, and then I want you to tell me what you think. We're gonna start with Henny, then go with Blesswin, and let Mr. Perkins close it out. Because now we're entering into the Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf situation. So let me play this for you, and then tell me what you think.
Dog, remove the comment.
All right, I got you.
I'm Christopher King. I actually was a licensed attorney in Collin County several years ago, working with the city of Frisco on a certain project. But I'm Christopher King. My handle is KingCast online. I'm also a journalist, and I have a couple things for you briefly. Today, I have filed my request for all exhibits used at trial. We'll see how that turns out. I had mailed it in before with a self-addressed stamped envelope. Didn't get a response, so I figured I'd fly down here and file it in person this time. So as to this trial, what I see as an attorney, I saw what I believe to be malpractice. And I don't know why it happened, but I will tell you a couple of quick reference points. Number one, he allowed those students young people, not professional people, to testify as to ultimate issues of fact, such as, was it murder or not? Yes. Was there provocation? Karmelo provoked him. That's not how it works. You have to make them elocute as to what Karmelo did to allegedly provoke a situation. That's how it works. And when you don't object to it in the cases in chief, you cannot come back later post hoc and then ask the judge and complain about it in a jury charge. There were also no expert witnesses produced, no use of force expert, no jury professional consultant was there that I know of. Okay, so these are all very serious questions on this case, and I don't understand it, but I don't like it, and I think this is the proverbial travesty of justice that we have just witnessed here. And there needs to be an investigation. It's not right. It's just not right. Yeah.
Thank you, Henny. My name is T. And when I went to see the video, they ask if you want to see it from either.
So we're going to start right there, and then we'll start right there first. So when you see that, and that was just from his professional opinion as a lawyer, right? I didn't disagree with a goddamn thing he said. Nothing, not one thing.
I didn't either. But I'm not a lawyer.
Am I on? I thought Blessed One was gonna be. Then I'm gonna talk.
Blessed One.
Yeah. With the situation, I agree with him because it did look like the whole case got derailed intentionally. I said that the other day, so I don't really have much to expound about it, except I really did see a lot of flaws. And lawyers as yourself, TP, and many others, you guys are very intelligent. There's no way purposely this was just a spontaneous thing or ill-prepared. It looked like a deliberate, maybe circumstances evade. This is alleged now. I don't know if people gave them money or maybe a personal thing, but it looked like the case was derailed completely from so-called professionals.
All right, here's my take. I'm gonna fall in line with Dawgface and Henny, and I think, and Blessed One, Absolutely. That guy, he's given me more insight than I knew. So he knows, being down there, being boots on the ground, he really has more intimate information than we probably have. I mean, you all have been researching this. I've been sort of listening to it in the news, and we got a lot going on here. We got trials and things like that. But I listen to the news feed. This guy is giving you way more information than we know. So look at what he just said. He said there were no experts that were called for the defense. And so, use of force expert, meaning that, because I've had the position that based upon what I knew, it didn't appear that there was justification necessarily. But what I do know is that the young guy, Mr. Anthony, did not testify in a self-defense case. How else are you going to put on a self-defense if the defendant does not testify? That's complete. Now, I don't think he brought that up necessarily, but in order to establish itself, I've had people in situations. I had a trial, and many trials, and sometimes, my client has and comes in with baggage that I may not want to put on. And see, Karmelo Anthony at 17 years old, I don't think the kid's ever been in trouble in his life. He really doesn't have any baggage. I'm talking about somebody 35, 40. They got some baggage sometimes that I risk exposing that baggage. So I try to get that self-defense in through other circumstances or other witnesses. But oftentimes judges, I ask for a ruling from the court. I say, Judge, if I don't put them on, are you going to give me the self-defense instruction? And the judge was like, nope, I need to hear from him. And so I have to put him on or her on. So that is, but more importantly, you've got a guy who's on bond. And I'm going to get to that issue too. They posted his bond, and that's significant because he gets a chance to come freely back and forth to your office rather than you going to meet him at the county jail and all of those things, right? So, but I want to talk about a major thing that I also didn't know is that this lawyer is saying that judge allowed witnesses to say this is murder. Yes. How do you even do that? So I believe if that's the case, if those things happen, this case should come back on appeal anyway. It has to come back on appeal because you're letting lay people draw legal conclusions. That's the job of the jury to do. So the redundancy of that being said by witnesses who are probably crying when they're doing it, the emotion, those things seep into those jurors' skin. How can you have a fair trial if all of this is going on?
They had to be impartial. Let's get to another point that Dawg and I talked about the other day. They raised, I believe, $624,000 for this kid. And it's my understanding that the lawyer was a public defender.
No.
So if he wasn't?
No. What it is he used to work in the public defender's office, but he opened his own private defense practice.
Because here's what I was concerned with, is that they wouldn't use that money to hire a lawyer, not to say, and that's not to say that public defenders, there's some great public defenders, there's some great court-appointed lawyers, and I think that court-appointed lawyers and public defenders get a bad deal because sometimes people don't value what they don't pay for, right? But in this situation, if those things are correct, that they didn't have any experts, this kid did not testify in his own defense, that, and again, use of force experts, PTSD, all of those things, trauma experts, some people to give some scientific explanation behind why this reaction might have been taken by this young man and the circumstance that didn't have, I don't necessarily believe that that's the end all be all, but jury consultants, why not? If you have the money, you put everything in the vehicle, you put everything on the ship, jury consultant right away, come on down, and this is, I gotta believe that the guy didn't throw this case away. It's too much publicity behind this case. It's a national or even international case. So I can't believe that this guy would throw this case and not do what he was supposed to do in this case because of some circumstances in which we don't know right now I just don't believe. I know DJ Bless once said he believes. I just can't believe that, man. I would hate to. But at the end of the day, is there some
TP? But with you saying
evidence?
that, with you saying that he didn't, they didn't. Why didn't he exhaust? You said that, and I'm gonna go with Henny. She said he's not a public defender, so I would side with that. But it's even worse then, because why didn't he exhaust the funds to the proper professionals? I didn't even think about that. Like you said, like Dawgface is a counselor. He can give a better example. Look, man, Karmelo did such and such because dudes his age and such. Here's a clear example. I didn't even think about that, because I do see other cases. You got 4 different professionals speaking on even the YSL case.
Well, now here's the other part to all of this as well. The defense was set to put on a case. Now, I was watching some YouTubers that I know from covering cases that were boots on the ground to get the information from them. And they were on a break. Defense started their cases. They called who they were going to call. They go on a break, and the break is taking longer than what it's supposed to. And 3 of them have said they've gone back into the courtroom. The families of both parties are in there. Both attorneys are in there. Carmelo's in there. The judge is in there. And the defense rests their case. But they were supposed to be putting on their case and asked for an early lunch so that there'd be no interruption in between the witnesses they're calling. Yet they go to lunch. Whatever happens, everybody comes back in the room. And now there's no more witnesses being called. The case is done. It's over with.
So what happened? What happened during that motherfucking extended lunch break? First of all,
I could have asked that question myself.
First of all, this shit stinks to high hell. High, not low, high, right? This shit smells like hell in the heaven. None of this shit makes sense. None of it, right? Listen, let me tell you something. I have an open-ended criticism of Texas. First of all, where the fuck was all of these celebrity rappers who are all over the news right now? Where are all they? Why? See, when I came up, the rap community was a reflection of what was happening inside the urban environment.
That is correct.
And this has nothing to do with the legality of the case at all. But bro, when we've come to the point where hip hop, when you consider the origins of hip hop and what it meant and how it was used, right? And when we had these niggas right now, all these niggas gonna do is brag about guns, cars, killing each other. These Texas niggas is some of the most violently aggressive, money-getting, gold, Johnny Dang, diamond wearing ass niggas in the world. Ain't none of I went through their pages yesterday. Ain't none of these rap niggas who all come out of poverty, who all have been in trouble with the law, ain't none of them saying nothing. There's no level of consciousness in these rappers. So my thing is, if we can't use you as a community to our benefit to speak for us or to shine some light on what's happening to us as a people, if we can't use you for that, and all we can do is listen to you brag and talk about and drilling and killing and put niggas in op packs, if we can't use y'all for that, what the fuck good are you rap niggas?
Yeah, I mean, they used to be the voice of the community, and now, I mean, it's so commercialized now that it's really about money. It's really about, if it don't make money, it don't make sense.
Hey, listen, it makes me feed into the conspiracy. I'm not even a conspiracy theorist necessarily, but it bro, they have listen. These motherfuckers.
I think corporate America bought hip hop a long time ago.
Long time ago, right? Okay. But right now, it is no more blatantly obvious than that it is right now. Right now in Texas, listen, Juneteenth is upon us.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Texas. How ironic. Because Juneteenth was born out of the great state of Texas. Them niggas was this is me, not y'all. Them niggas is so slow. Them 10-gallon hat, cowboy boot wearing ass niggas is so slow. Yo, nigga, they freed us 2 years ago. And you niggas just not getting the news? Y'all ain't got no fight back in y'all blood for real. But y'all shoot each other down. Listen, Texas is that concentrated nigga behavior. If you look up concentrated or acute nigger syndrome. In Texas, the whole state, black Texas is going to be right there. You hear me?
Well, dog, let me piggyback real quick because we've been focusing on like where all the rappers are. Where were all these activists that are now shooting each other down, tearing each other down while they're all trying to reach for the bag of Karmelo Anthony and the fame and the clout of being attached to this case? Where were all of those activists at? Because as far as I remember, Sky was the only person who was saying, this dude, Dominique Alexander's involved. This case is done. Nobody else was speaking out about it at all. But now everybody's coming out and they're backbiting one another and just typical nigga shit. Sorry to say it like that, but that's what it is to me, because this is not a time for us to act like that with one another. We're supposed to come together. But where were they?
Excuse my ignorance, Henny. Who is Dominique Alexander? I don't know.
So Dominique Alexander was is a community activist out there in Texas he was connected to the family. He advised the family to fire the lawyer that they already had, which was a black woman, and hire the lawyer that they have, which was Mike Howard, who is a Caucasian man. So he told them that the optics looked better.
Hold on, flag on the play. What's the Caucasian mean?
A white man.
Oh, you mean a hunky?
I was not gonna go there.
A mayo.
I wasn't raised right. You know I wasn't raised right.
I'm trying to be all professional.
No, my mama.
But here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Look at the design, though.
Mm-hmm.
And in creating, I like to be a quarterback. Sometimes I'm gonna pass the ball off in a trial. If I've got money like that, why not? I'll keep if I believe in that black woman, but yet I'm in a jurisdiction or a venue that white might sell a little better. We have to be realist about it.
Yes.
I got enough money to keep both.
Yes.
I got enough money to keep both,
And that's what I'm saying.
And the thing is, hey, let's work the 10 speed in brown shoes. See, I'm older than all y'all. Y'all don't remember.
I never remember that.
Goldblum,
Gregory Hines.
Vereen, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But,
Ben Vereen.
If that's the case, because here, I'm not trying to change. I'm not trying to be a salmon swimming upstream and trying to change people who are 30, 40, 50 years old. I'm not going to be successful there. I have to understand my audience, and I have to play to my audience the way that they deserve to be played to. And so if that guy is right, let's say Alexander's right, go hire this guy. He's a good guy. But the family trusts this black sister right here, right? Then get them both. Yes. Make them work together. You know what I'm saying? And out of that, you're gonna get the best of both worlds. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. Look at what was it? OJ has 6-7 lawyers.
Yes.
And understand this: had he had one lawyer, the likelihood is he could have gone to prison.
The glove would have fit, even if it didn't fit.
Yeah,
TP, even when I was a kid, I didn't know how he won that case. Even as a kid, I was like, wow.
Because the glove didn't fit.
No, he should have. Wait, let me say this much. There are a lot of people who believe OJ did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, but let me ask you this question. Bless one. Do you believe OJ's guilty or not guilty?
I believe he's innocent because too much things that surrounded the case, from the ties with the sheriffs, diluting the evidence from that one serial killer who was that's very plausible to him.
Okay, what about you, dog?
You asking me that?
Do you believe he's innocent or guilty?
Oh, wait,
do you believe he's not guilty or not guilty?
Hold on.
Yeah, I want to know from phase 2.
I got what is it? This is what I believe. I believe if I catch you cheating, bitch, everybody got to go. No, this bullshit. No, I don't think OJ was guilty, right? I don't give a fuck what team of lawyers what ensemble you brought to the table. That case was so. Let me just say.
No, but here's the problem, though.
Yeah.
Who would have had the manpower, the sheer manpower that they
Nobody.
needed to break
Nobody.
down the DNA, you know, because
Nobody.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
We don't know from the DNA. They still got the DNA and they haven't tested it yet because the DNA's technology wasn't where it is today, number one.
Right.
But number two, how would we have found out about Mark Furman using the
Yeah.
N-word and all those
Yeah.
other things? In
That part.
Would not be
it
for that
took
money.
manpower.
Yeah.
And it took all of those people working in a coordinated effort,
Yeah. Yes,
you know,
sir.
and to do different things. And then at the end of the day, they all got together and they, you know, whether they were fighting, they didn't allow it to show themselves. And they all agreed the best orator was Johnny Cochran. So that's why he did
Yes.
the closing.
That's why he did the closing. I
That's why
remember.
he
So
did the closing. And so
let me say this, right? Go ahead.
Rest
go
in
ahead.
peace to
I'm
Johnny.
good. I'm good.
Let me say this. So listen. So I don't have an opinion one way or other of whether he was guilty or not. I don't. Let me tell you why. I wasn't a fan of OJ prior to this whole thing happening, right? I was not a fan of OJ. OJ, to me, respectfully, no, fuck all that respectfully shit. OJ was a whitewashed ass, white woman loving ass nigga. And OJ, in my opinion, had turned his back against all things black and had merged like most entertainers of his ilk, in whether they're sport athletes or entertainers, they do. They integrate into integration. They really integrate into rich white society, and then they are somehow convinced that they are above and beyond. Michael Jackson did the same thing. Bill Cosby did the same thing, right? The richer you get, the more like them you think you are, until they show you that you're not. I wasn't a fan of O.J. Simpson, but I was. I walked away from that trial understanding one thing: if you got some money, anything is possible. That was my takeaway.
Well, here's a couple of things. And no matter what you believe or not, he is not guilty. There's no one can say that, because the determination of to whether or not he's not guilty or guilty is the jury's decision, and that's fact. Nobody can disagree with that. Now, whether you believe he did it or not is a separate set of circumstances.
Yes.
You know, because it's not necessarily whether he did it or not is what they can prove. Now, but the thing is, I don't necessarily look at, you know, the juice, as we call him. You know, did he turn his back on black people? I don't know. I don't think Bill Cosby ever turned his back on black people. No,
Bill Cosby became super critical before they tore his ass up.
But did he?
Dawgface is correct about OJ.
Hold on. Did he need to be critical of us? That's another question we need to ask. That's
He
a
did.
whole separate set of
He did. He just went overboard a little, but he did.
I don't know if he did.
Well, I think, you know what I think? I said, listen, so this is what I'll do, because I'm getting old. So the older you get,
I agree.
Thank you, I appreciate you thinking, right? So the older you get, so listen, I love being around older people. You know why? Because they don't have any inhibitions. They don't give a fuck about. They're gonna tell you the truth. I've been living too long to be playing game with you, nigga. I'm gonna tell you exactly.
I'm going behind the scenes, but I'm still here.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you exactly. Listen, the older you get, you ain't got time playing no motherfucking game, no motherfucker. You gonna get the raw truth. When you get above 50, your tolerance level for bullshit that you would have explained away or justified before 50, that shit disappears. When I turn 50, I'm like, oh, you niggas deserve what y'all got. No, you niggas is ignorant. You niggas still blaming slavery. Nigga, you don't know, nigga, you ain't never seen Roots. How in the fuck can you blame you? So listen, we do have people who use any excuse that they can find to justify whatever dumbass shit they want to do. So the older I've gotten, the more life I've lived, the more I've traveled. My opinion is about the overall condition of black people as a whole and the contributing factors to why we still are like we are right now. That shit has, because I can see clearly now. The rain has gone. I can see it.
There's not many people like you, Dawgface. You're accountable. Yeah. Even when you talk to me behind the scenes, I'd say you're drill sergeant. Like, you're a straightforward. You're a straight shooter. Most people will benefit from a guy like that. You're a male role model, a strong voice, but you're not promoted in the communities like that. A voice like you would be chased away.
Oh no, they damn.
Oh, not like that. Yeah, I don't mean.
They're saying promote me. I'm eating motherfucker.
I mean, like they close out. Like they close the ears.
Listen. Money is a bad motherfucker. Whether you white, black, green, or blue. Sometimes. Listen, if Puffy didn't have the money that he had, Puffy is another example of OJ having access to funds. If Puffy didn't have that money, when you look at the attack, whether you agree with, whether you think he's a scoundrel or not, when you look at they launched a public relations smear campaign on him at the highest levels, right? So if he didn't have money, his ass would have been up under the jail, bro.
You know, let me quote my pops, man. And my pops is my idol. You know, I tell you that. I say that all the time. But my pops used to say this, and I guarantee you, y'all gonna use this later on. I said it first on Dawgface show on national. Right?
I'll be stealing shit. So just
here.
Come on.
The world is like a shit sandwich. The more bread you got, the less shit you taste.
That's some good shit right there.
That was good right there.
I'm gonna post that right now on my social media. Hold on.
I'm serious, because if he didn't have that lawyer, he had a badass lawyer, the guy who did YSL's case. You know what I'm saying? And he just brought those people to task. I think he did a better job in YSL's than Puffy's, because that guy went to jail against that judge. That judge who locked him up. Remember, because he wouldn't tell. The lawyer wasn't going to tell. He stood his ground. That's
the best promotion you could get for anybody. Look, man, I'm with you through thick and thin, and you proved it. Right. So as a turn, go ahead.
And he stood up for the witness that gave him the information. Because you can't make somebody from the press tell about their sources. Why do you think you can make this lawyer talk about where you got that information from, so that other person will get in trouble when the judge was doing something wrong in that case? And I don't think that they're going to be done with that judge. I think that judge, because remember, that judge got recused.
Yeah, he got recused. Yeah. He was doing a little too much. Do you agree with that, TP?
Oh, he was doing way too much. He was trying to usher that guy into the penitentiary.
Right. You don't think for a TV show something advantageous after that? Because I was like, is he auditioning like the earring? Not that I judge a judge with an earring or not, but just look like.
Yeah, he was putting on a show. It became more about him than about the case. And, that was too bad, because now you're violating.
I was going to wait till Face get off, but
I'm here.
Oh, my bad. To not to dismiss Karmelo, but more of AllStarJr. What percentage, forget about questions that I got, just me as a normal citizen's asking you, because you are the expert, what percentage he got to beat his case? I don't want to project and say if he's guilty, but to actually beat it.
I think most people have a shot, right? And I think he's got a better than 50% chance. I think he's got a much better than 50% chance in this situation, just based upon the emotion that's going to be extracted from the witnesses, from the people that you're going to call as witnesses. Some of those people who were in the restaurant. Let's talk about their fear. Let's talk about the trauma that they experienced. Because here's the thing: no matter what AllStarJr did, those people who claim, particularly the guy who's the victim, or the one who's being charged, Ben 10, particularly him, it was his set of circumstances that set this in place. And I don't believe that being an individual who was an initial aggressor can really, in this set of circumstances, should be allowed to be now called a victim. I just, that's my opinion. Clearly, that's not the opinion of the government, but I do believe he has a much greater than 50% chance, and that's saying a lot in most of these situations.
The cooperation, wouldn't he have to cooperate though? I find it hard to believe you're in a situation. I don't want to get nobody in trouble.
But I got family.
Okay, that's why I wanted to know.
Yeah, he's going to testify. I mean, here's another thing. Here's the thing that I think Henny had brought up earlier, is that they can testify and they can still get charged for the initial armed robbery on AllStarJr and the girl and the young lady that he was with.
Is there liability for a future lawsuit from AllStarJr saying that establishment failed to keep him safe and secure him?
Well, here's the thing. In that situation, was it something that there was some expectation that there was, like sometimes in nightclubs, when you go in nightclubs, you do strip searches, well, not strip searches, but you do searches, you have metal detectors because there's drinking, there's partying, there's dancing. Oftentimes when you go into restaurants, it's not necessarily something that would call for the necessity of security. I don't know what type of restaurant it is. If it's something that in which there's it's a high likelihood that something like this could happen.
No, it wasn't. It was in an upscale neighborhood in Houston, on Kirby Street. Okay. It's upscale. This is not like going to. It was in an upscale neighborhood, and the restaurant was known as an upscale restaurant.
Well, and do they typically, are these places that typically have security there? And maybe not, you know. So if that's the case, then I don't know if AllStarJr would have a basis for suing the restaurant or the establishment. But also, you know, it would be based on Texas law. That would be state law, a state law case that would be brought in their, what is it, Harris County courts.
Right.
So he got screwed over. Then the self-preservation still caused him to lose, is what you're telling me. Yeah.
Well, right now he's losing temporarily, but hopefully he'll be vindicated in the end. But in the meantime, he's going to be locked up.
I think every American citizens are in agreement with AllStarJr. Everybody I've talked to, even like Christians in my family, they seen the case and was like, "That's crazy." Like,
and
I believe in the First Amendment.
And that bodes a strong likelihood that he'll find himself victorious in this case.
Right. Okay.
You know.
All right. So let's switch speeds now. Mr. Perkins, are you familiar with Mr. Rick Chow?
Is that the one in South Carolina?
Yes, the Asian gentleman who his family, himself, his son, his wife, chased the young 14-year-old brother out the store, chased him more than 120 yards off his property, and shot him in the back.
Right.
He was in jail 2 years fighting the case. He was acquitted. He went to trial. He was acquitted by a jury of his peers. Mm-hmm. Because this case has been settled, sort of like with the all these cases have been settled except for the AllStarJr situation.
Right.
Mr. Rick Child, did you see the footage?
No, I haven't seen the footage.
It is we don't actually see the shooting, but when you look at the Henny, you hear Henny? Your microphone ain't on.
My apologies. I had kind of a family emergency. I had to navigate that's happening out of state. So I had to place calls. So I apologize.
All is well with
you done?
I'm done. But before you go into Mr. Chow, I did have one question for Mr. Perkins about about Karmelo Anthony. It's a two-part question. In jury selection, you usually try to aim for a jury of a person's peers. We know that. In Karmelo Anthony's case, there were 8 women in the jury pool. That, of course, we know there was no one that was representative of our community there. They dismissed the 3 Black jurors that were there because they were educators. I didn't understand that. So one part is, why would they dismiss those 3 Black jurors for being educators? And the other part of that is, during testimony, the mother of Austin Metcalf was sobbing. So to me, I know normally in court, that's not something that's allowed. You're not allowed to show emotion, but she was allowed to sob and weep where it was audible. And you could see on some of the jurors' faces that it did affect them. You have women on the jury. You have a mother that's crying over her son who has been, he's dead. So that's playing to the jury without anybody having to try to speculate. Or that's going to play on a woman's heart, especially if they're a mother. So the question that goes with that piece is that something that can be looked at as a key component for a mistrial?
Well, you're not talking about a mistrial. What you're talking about is grounds to get a new trial. And it's like that lawyer said that Dog played, where's the objection? So I wouldn't necessarily object in front of that jury, because I don't want them to look at me, because depending on what the judge says and how the judge rules, because judges sit there in that high post. The court's set up that everybody has to respect the judge. You know why? That judge sits up higher than everyone else, right? And so even the visual shows some position of authority visually, optically, you see that. So I don't want that judge to be like, you asshole. What I would do is I would say, Judge, may we approach? And I'd say, Judge, I want to make an objection outside the presence of the jury. So the judge will excuse the jury. I'll tell the judge, look, we can't have this lady in here crying like this. Either she needs to get herself together or she needs to get out of here. I said, I understand she's the mother and I get that, but she's not allowed to really use this visual of crying and sobbing. She can look at this by closed circuit TV in another room. She can look at it on Zoom. We have all kinds of technological advantages so that she can be a part of this case, not a part of this case that's influencing the jury improperly. Because other than that, I ain't got a shot. That's one thing I'm going to do. If you don't object, one of that lawyer said, if you don't object, you've essentially waived your right to bring it up on appeal, right? This case is obviously going to find its way in the Court of Appeals in the state of Texas. But I disagree from this perspective. You still have a right to bring those things up on appeal and have the appellate court talk about them by making the claim that the lawyer was ineffective. And if you make a claim that the lawyer is ineffective, it will open the door to all the things that the lawyer was ineffective on, as long as the Court of Appeals is basically going to say these type of things are the type of things that could affect the outcome of the trial. And clearly, those are things, like I said, like that emotion. They're cashing in on emotion without her even testifying. I mean, she probably testified to identify the body. Oftentimes in a homicide case, the mother's going to be called or a close relative is going to be called to identify the person, not necessarily get into the circumstances of what kind of kid this kid is, unless his character is being impugned. This is not an issue of character in this situation, but that's obviously that's something to consider. But I think, this case is going to find its way in the Court of Appeals. But,
and then the three black jurors.
I got my wife on the phone. I don't want to miss this.
Okay, guys.
Okay. Yeah, you better not miss that one.
And listen, so my question is, when it comes to Rick Child, I think we've already, you can never talk about it too much.
Right.
But I am more concerned with how, and I want to ask Mr. Perkins what he thinks about people outside of the black community who have a problem, whether they're Asian or whether they're white, whether they're whatever. How does he feel about people outside of the black community who now have a problem with how black people grieve and or respond and or react to a perceived injustice that's committed against us as a people?
True, but you know what else I find very mind-numbing for me is everyone is trying to make it, even though we know that race plays a factor in everything, right? That's going on. We're not speaking to that. There are people that are, but majority of people, from what I've seen, from scrolling, from listening to what people have to say about things, people are talking about the injustices in both of these cases. And it's like whenever we start speaking up and start talking about the systemic differences that happen and how this is a continual pattern that happens, it gets weaponized against us. That's what is so mind-numbing to me, and it's exhausting. Black fatigue, that gives me black fatigue.
I have white fatigue, but I'm not gonna go on.
Yes, Mr. Perkins, are you back with us?
I am.
I'm sorry, Henny. You preach good, but you gave me reasons why that other fatigue is real.
So black fatigue, I think over the course of the last 20 years, come old, but particularly and especially since. See, that's why. And I'm scratching you off my Christmas list. I'm scratching you off my white Jesus list this year. I don't like how
Hold up. So you mean to tell me I'm not getting no Gucci socks for Christmas?
If you insult me one more time, you ain't getting shit. I'll tell you that right now. I'm sick of your shit tonight. So black fatigue. Black fatigue is defined as people from outside of, from a racial perspective. People outside of the black community have grown exhausted with black people affixing or trying to attach the things that people do to us as racism. I want to contrast with the whole Rick Child thing, because there was a rapper from Detroit whose name is, what's that son bitch name, Henny? Chyna Mac. A lot of the Asian communities have black people have said, okay, we boycotting this shit. No more chong, no more no more none of that shit, right? So the Asian community, they have been boisterous about their displeasure with black people saying they're going to boycott their businesses. They are upset with black people, and they are expressing their anger. Y'all kill each other. Y'all some niggas. Y'all this. Y'all do that. They are expressing their displeasure with us. They're not even being empathetic with how we feel and why we feel like we feel. They're just simply expressing their displeasure because they understand their business is going to take a financial hit. Does race in America? I said Chyna Mac is from New York.
He's from New York.
Did I say Detroit? I know I didn't. I said
yes, you did. That's why I looked at you sideways.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, excuse me. No, Detroit, we ain't got no bitch ass nigga like that. He's from New
And
York.
you know what? I don't appreciate how you looked at me and then all of a sudden Chyna Mac's name came back to you. You trying to say that I look like I'm related to him?
Yes. Next question. Mr. Perkins, is black fatigue in the legal system? Is that a real thing? Or is that
let's get it. Okay, what would be your understanding? And let's make sure we all have the same understanding. What is your understanding, or what is this group's understanding of black fatigue?
Well, black fatigue is an attitude that people, non-black people in this country especially, have in respect to when something happens to a member of the black community and when we respond or react to it, right? And when we label that thing as racism, white people are trying to say that it's a part. Black fatigue is born out of the same thing the race card thing came out of. You hear me? You're playing the race card. It's not this, it's not that. It's don't believe your lying ass eyes and your ears. And I said during a podcast or interview, I said the one thing black people have 6 senses. We have the 5 that everybody else have, but we also have an internal racism radar. It is not, and that radar does not stem from our ego. It doesn't stem from our education. It stems from our soul. It emanates from our soul and from our heart. We don't have to be told. You don't have to say nigga to me in order for me to understand that your behavior and your positions towards certain things have a racial tinge to it. You ain't got to tell a nigga what. You ain't got to call me a nigga in order. You don't have to call me a nigga, a monkey. You don't have to say I'm chimping. You ain't got to lock your door when you see me coming. I can feel it. I swear to God.
In other words, what's understood don't need to be said.
Exactly.
You know, so the thing about it is, you know, so anybody's gonna tell me that there's equality that represents that everybody's represented equally, then I'm not telling you a fucking lie. I'm sorry. I'm gonna call it that. You know what I'm saying? Let me step outside of the legal parameters right now. Because, you know, race, here you go. Look, Black Lives Matter, right? You know, so if anybody doesn't understand, you know, I used to live in a posh community called Grosse Pointe Shores. A Dawgface knows where it is. It's the old money section of the Southeast Michigan. And I lived there. And right around during COVID, I put that sign, that sign up on my lawn. It is a big ass sign though, but so eventually they gave me a ticket for having that sign. So I wound up suing this community and they paid me a whole lot of money to take the sign down. And then I took the revenue from that interaction. I tied 20% because it was found money, right? And I owed my wife some money, so I paid her back. And then I used the rest of the money to run a campaign for reparations. And I do these things because we have to be examples in our community, because to suggest that things are fair and equal They're not. So just stop lying. Now, we own some of the responsibility for how we have been treated. That's where Bless One and we're going to have our own show about Bill Cosby, because he did go hard, but is going hard needed, because, there's a dude, I saw him, he took Charlemagne to task on his own show. I can't remember the guy's name. He's a black conservative, and they thought they were going to bring him on there to dog him out about his views, and he came on there and gave Charlemagne the business. But there's places for us in all aspects of society. But to say that it's fair, to say that we get equal treatment, to say that we're treated fairly, no, I'm not going to accept that. I think we have to force our way into certain circumstances. We have to force people to treat us the right way. But again, people are going to, and it is a thing from our ancestors, and I'm talking about the Neanderthals. People go towards what is like them. So understanding that, and whether you want to call it racism or not, there's something intuitive in us that draws us to people that look like us. The only people that don't is black people who've been conditioned not to. Because look, anytime we get together on something, it's something wrong with it. Something that's pro-black has a tendency to have a veneer of being anti-American. We're in that era now where they're trying to peel back everything, that the progress that we've made from that perspective, they're trying to peel it back and saying it's not necessary now. Then you get some black folks who found prosperity in America, and they feel like I got here on my own and not on the backs of others and all of these other things, and you should too. That's not the way to proceed, and it's just, but again, I have to be critical about us in order to move us forward,
But that's honest.
I have to be, but at the same time, I'm going to be honest to say, do we get a fair shake? Do I think that, and I only know what I've heard in the commentary about the child case, but I just can't imagine where it's right, where you chase a 14-year-old, the kid was 14, right?
Yes, 130 yards.
Chase a kid down, but also you got to know your audience. You got to know where you at. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's where we're at. But again, why not use those things to take us to the next level and continue, because I do believe, here's my belief. Let's talk about civil rights. Civil rights only came about because they wanted our money in their communities. And again, if we don't spend their money, look, down when they boycotted the buses down in Alabama, the buses was going bankrupt because we weren't using it. When we have and patronize our own, I look at someone had told me a statistic. Jewish people make up 16 million people in the world. That's my understanding, right? I could be wrong on that. And look at what they do, because they stick together. I ain't mad at Jewish people. Something? Neither. Shoot, one of my best law partners. He's as Jewish as they come. But I'm saying I just look at what can be done, and I see the potential for greatness always. So I don't have the right. I'm too old. I got more behind it than I got ahead of me. So I have to look at the positive outcomes and the potential outcomes that are out here that we're not taking advantage of, and that we can take advantage of. And it doesn't take a lot to do it. We just have to wake up and understand, like you guys are talking about, where are the rappers? Where are the people who, the activists? Where are the people who got money? You know what I'm saying? You want to talk about Bill Cosby? Remember, Bill Cosby gave $20 million to black colleges.
HBCUs, yes, he did.
TP, Dawgface, and Henny, let me get this out the way quickly, because the Bill Cosby thing, I was saying what blacks like to interject as far as why they're mad at him. But for me, man, Bill Cosby, I didn't have cable growing up till I was 18. Bill Cosby was damn near my father. I'm open and honest. The Cosby family, I was jealous. We had roaches in the cereals. We had rat droppings. And I'm still eating all this and pretending I'm one of his kids. So like, I love Bill Cosby.
Absolutely. So let me add something to it, right? So prior to Bill Cosby, Bill Cosby's trouble started not with the women Bill Cosby's trouble started when he tried to buy that network.
NBC.
That's when his trouble started, right? But at the same time, I think that his expression of anger and frustration with black people as a whole, I think it was more so with the overall condition in terms of the excuses that people were making in contrast to, hey, listen, there's no boogeyman stopping you from necessarily being great. I'm a person, I did 17 years in prison. I came home from prison.
Wow.
Within 6 months, I had a job working in General Motors. I was the site operations manager over the GM powertrain plant in Northern Toledo. I was making $140,000 a year. I was only out of prison 6 months. When people talk about me, they hate me, but they say he a smart motherfucker. I was out of prison 6 months, and I was the site operations manager over the GM powertrain plant in Toledo. I was having monthly meetings called the PSRB meeting with all of the department heads in General Motors and the union president and the Ray Woods, shout out to Ray Woods, who's the president of the Local 400, Toledo, Ohio, and Steve Rubley. I'm sitting in a meeting with African engineers who have no idea that I was just sitting in a level 4 prison 6 months prior to that.
I had no idea. You come off as a sergeant.
I went from General Motors to Chrysler. I was the overnight supervisor at Chrysler at 15 Mile and Gratiot at the Stebbins plant. I went from the Stebbins plant I became a supervisor at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. I went from Detroit Metropolitan Airport as a supervisor to Cisco Systems Food Distribution in Canton, Michigan. And I was the site operations manager over the Lincoln, Illinois facility and over the Canton, Michigan facility. Canton, Michigan facility. I was making $100,000 doing that. So, and then I started my own businesses, and I haven't worked a W-2 job since. I got my CDL because I was bored, and I worked as a trash man for a little bit just so I can you can work with the CDL a little bit. You're going to lose that bitch, right? But I did it because I was bored. A lot of things I've done in my lifetime, my point is I've surprised myself. So can't a motherfucker tell me nothing about what a nigga can't do? Because there ain't nothing a motherfucker can't do if I can do it. When you look at the circumstances that I come out of, I don't want to hear my kids.
But hold on, see, but you're not somebody that's saying, you're not so negative towards people. You know how you see people who make it, they be like, I made it, why can't you? You're not saying it that way. You're really showing people a way and promoting people to go there. You're not denigrating nobody. No. You're not talking about nobody, because oftentimes people get to that level and be like, you can't do that, you a bum, all this other stuff. You're not saying that. You're just saying, look, if I could do it, you can too. Come on and do it. That's the spirit that I see that you're saying it, rather than just, I got mine, you get yours.
Yes, sir.
Bill Cosby's son was murdered too, and he still didn't chastise the community. He still showed love.
But nobody's
he had all the reason to get mad at them.
Well, remember, Bill Cosby's son was killed right around the time that Dr. J's son was killed as well.
Oh, so, you are smart. Yeah, good memory.
Was it a Philadelphia thing of powerful black people, black men? I don't know.
That was crazy. So you think there's a conspiracy surrounding that one? I'm sorry.
Can't touch the conspiracy, but
my bad, dog. Because he changing his tires and he just gets shot in the head. That's crazy.
Ask me.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me ask you, Dawgface. You think it's a conspiracy?
Jordan lost his father too.
Yep, right, all around the same time. And wait, remember those kids that supposedly killed him? They let him out because they know that they wasn't the thieves. They were just thieves. They weren't the killers. And nobody, But here's another thing: you hear all those people. All the money they have, they didn't unleash any investigation into what it had. It's almost kind of like the OJ thing, where people say, OJ didn't necessarily want to find out who did it. You know what I mean? It's just.
Oh no, me neither. If I can find out a gift, I don't give a fuck who did what.
No, I mean, yeah, that's true.
Not my business. Not my.
I'm happy to be free.
Not my deal.
She was cheating anyway.
Somebody killed that Henny. Not my deal.
I gotta get a release.
I'm gonna care about Henny, but my mom, my old lady cheat. I won't care, man.
Yes, sir. Hey, Mr. Perkins, Todd Perkins, attorney at law for the Perkins Law Group.
TP the smooth.
We gotta give you a nickname. TP
Hey, you
this
know
morning.
something? It takes us two ways though. Bless one.
Yeah.
You know, TP is Todd Perkins, and I like it. But see, my brothers, they be like, man, that fool's so shitty. That's why we call him toilet paper. You know what I'm saying? So you can take it two ways, man. But
Yes, sir.
TP.
Hey,
All
listen,
right.
I want to thank
What
you.
nickname you giving him?
Who, me?
Mr. Perkins, be careful with him because he give you. Yeah, you see?
You know something? Here, hey, Henny, I'm gonna have to watch after I get off.
I've already given him a name. I've already given a name. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase Bank. That's what cash. Money. Listen, Mr. Perkins, Attorney Todd Perkins, Law Esquire. I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for lending us your time. You can come back anytime.
Hey, man,
Absolutely.
just call me up. I have a great time with y'all, man. This is, y'all, as much as we talk about the streets, it's intellectual. I'm sure the people out there are getting more value out of this than just and having a good time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Listen, this is, it's Sunday night, but I couldn't see a better place than being, anywhere else. Stuck in my office, still having a good time.
I think Dawgface exposed you to the community. Like, he got a black woman, he got me, just a regular dude, but you're an attorney. There might be a black dude out there might think he has to change who he is to be, a doctor or a lawyer. You look like us and you talk like us without overdoing it. So that is an example, just to throw it your way right quick.
Well, here's another thing. From dirt we came and dirt we shall return. So, you know what I'm saying? How can I look at somebody else because they're not a lawyer or something like that? Because if I lose sight of where I came from and who I am, then, what was I worth in the first place, man? My parents raised me to be a man for all seasons and a man for all people to the extent that they'll accept me.
Great words. Wow.
Well, Mr. Perkins, it's been an honor, like really been an honor.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'll be back.
Yay.
Thank you.
All
Have
right,
a good
Mr.
night, sir.
Perkins is
I'll
here.
see y'all.
All right, thank you. Yep.
You
Todd
be on your
Perkins.
best behavior when he's here. I like when Mr. Perkins is here. Yeah, I'm gonna get Mr. Perkins on you.
You rowdy as hell or something, Dawgface. I don't be seeing.
No.
Well, I see
Oh,
how you
need
can get.
to go watch the
I
old
know how you can get.
episodes, okay?
Henny Gang knows I'm a saint. Henny Gang,
That's a
your
lie.
I
Miss
know who
Pammy
he
said
is
she
off
was
of this
taking her-
podcast.
Miss
What
Pammy
made me
said
like
she was taking
Dawgface?
her earrings off for you.
Oh yeah, I'm
Okay.
looking.
You got Whack 100 to shut the hell up. I ain't never
Listen.
seen somebody to do that.
Todd Perkins. Thank you for joining us. Hey, listen, man. DJ Bless One, that girl Henny. Why we call you girl? Why don't we say that lady Henny?
That
What is
queen,
this?
man.
Because,
She
okay,
embodies
so
queen,
the
man.
reason why it's that girl is because it was a lot easier, like coming up with the name. People be like, that girl Henny. Like, that's how people would say it. If I just said Henny, they would be like, that girl Henny. So
That's like a
how
South
it came
thing.
about. So, and then not only that, I'm that. Yeah.
She's saying she that girl. What's more to it? She introducing it as that.
My stomach. type of
I'm
squeeze.
her. She
My
is me
stomach.
and I am her.
My stomach is feeling some type of queasiness.
It's because you've never been this close to all of this greatness radiating off of me.
She smiles. That you. A lot of women today don't like smiling. That's why I give you the credit.
I got
She
somebody-
cheese a lot.
Watch this.
Girl, bye. Girl, bye. Girl, bye.
Did you get to the best one? Did you get the
Girl,
She
bye.
be showing teeth.
girl back? You've been tuned in to the greatest motherfucking podcast on earth. That girl Henny, DJ Bless One. I'm Doggy Dog. Y'all know what it is. Get y'all social media out so they can follow y'all on social media.
I am official That Girl Henny on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch.
Dawgface just got me back on YouTube. I've been lazy, but I'm on Instagram. I'm having fun there. DJ_Bless1. Hit me up there.
And I'm Dawgface Calderon. I'm the neighborhood bad guy. I'm the nigga they love to hate. You can follow me on YouTube. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Dawgface TV Podcast. Follow me on Instagram.
I just did.
The most dangerous voice in Detroit. Follow me on TikTok, Dawgface Calderon. Follow me on Twitter, Dawgface something. You can see me with all the Jiri on. I'm lit. Y'all know what it is. Thank y'all
He's
for
not
coming
lit.
out.